Days passed quietly after the attack in the storage bay. At least that's what most of the crew thought. But Commander Cortell knew better. He had seen the look in the raw mercenaries' eyes before they fled, not fear, not guilt, but rage. Rage that burned deep and cold. It was the same kind of rage that started wars. He increased security patrols, doubled surveillance, and silently vowed that no harm would ever come to Cadet Amelia Cross again. Still, Amelia returned to her duties like nothing had happened. Her determination surprised everyone. The story of how Cordell had protected her spread across the station like a legend now. Wherever she went, people moved aside, not out of mockery, but out of respect. Even the most hardened mercenaries whispered quietly when she passed. Some called her the human who tamed the predator. Others called her the commander's shadow. Amelia didn't like the attention. She just wanted to work, to fix machines, to be useful. But deep down, she couldn't ignore the truth. Since that night, Cortell had become more than her commander. He was her protector, her teacher, and in a strange way, her friend. Every morning now began the same way. At exactly 0600 hours, Cortell would appear at Maintenance Sector C, silent as a shadow. His eyes scanned the corridors, his senses alert. Then he would stand near the main reactor conduit, pretending to inspect the area while watching Amelia work. At first, she found it uncomfortable. Having the most feared being in the galaxy standing 10 feet away could make anyone nervous. But slowly, she got used to it. Sometimes he would ask questions about human tools. Other times, she would ask about his homeworld. Nith, it was a world of fire and stone, he once told her, his deep voice almost gentle. We learned to hunt before we could speak. The weak did not survive. Amelia listened with interest. And you? Were you always strong? He paused. No, strength is earned, not born. She smiled. Then maybe we have that in common. That made him glance at her, eyes gleaming faintly. Perhaps. Over time, they formed an odd friendship. Cordell taught her how to read alien body language, how a twitch of the tail or a flick of an ear could signal danger. In return, Amelia showed him human engineering tricks, teaching him how to fix circuits using quick improvisations and spare parts. Once, when a damaged hover drone spun out of control in the hangar, Cordell crushed it effortlessly with one hand before it could crash into her. Amelia scolded him jokingly. You didn't have to break it. He tilted his head. It was a threat. It was just a broken drone, she said, laughing. He stared at her for a long second before saying, You laugh even when danger is near. That is unusual. Maybe humans need to laugh to stop being afraid, she replied. He grunted softly, the alien version of amusement. Strange creatures, humans, but beyond their quiet friendship, something darker was brewing. The raw mercenaries hadn't forgotten their humiliation. They had friends, dangerous ones within the Roll Collective, a network of pirates and warlords who traded fear for power to them. Cortell had become a traitor, a warrior who had abandoned his own kind of strength to defend a human. The collective decided that both he and the human needed to be removed. So, one by one, they began to infiltrate the station's systems, hacked security feeds, corrupted maintenance reports, hidden explosives disguised as power converters, and through all of it, Amelia unknowingly walked right into the middle of their growing web. One evening, Amelia was alone in the secondary maintenance tunnel, checking a power relay that had been acting strange. She hummed quietly to herself, her toolkit beside her. The corridor lights flickered slightly, but she paid it no mind. Flickering lights were common on Station Varel. But then she noticed something strange. Someone had been here before her. The wires were already cut too neatly. She frowned. That's odd, she murmured. This isn't damage. This is sabotage, her communicator crackled. Cross report, came Cortell's deep voice. Commander. I think someone tampered with the relay, she said, crouching to take a closer look. It's not just malfunctioning, it's been rerouted. There was a pause. Then Cordell's tone hardened. Step away from the relay. Now, before she could ask why, the panel sparked violently. A blinding flash filled the tunnel, throwing her backward. The world went dark. When Amelia awoke, the air smelled of burnt metal. The tunnel lights were out, and smoke filled the air. She coughed, sitting up slowly. Her communicator was broken, but faintly, through the haze. She heard heavy footsteps approaching. Her first thought was relief. Cortel, but then she saw them. 3 shadows appeared through the smoke. Rawl, mercenaries. Their glowing eyes cutting through the darkness. One of them hissed, "You humans never learn." She scrambled back, her heart pounding. You did this?" "Of course," said another, stepping closer. "We wanted the Predator's pet to scream before we end her." They raised their weapons. Amelia closed her eyes, bracing for the worst. Then came a sound, a deep, furious roar that shook the entire corridor. Metal bent. Sparks flew. Cordell exploded through the emergency hatch like a storm of fury in motion. His claws caught one Rawl mid-step, throwing him across the tunnel like a rag doll. Another tried to shoot, but Cordell moved faster, too fast. He slammed the mercenary against the wall, with a sound like cracking glass. The last Rawl stumbled back in terror. "You protect her more than your own honor," he shouted. Cortel's voice was cold and calm. "Honor is not in killing the weak. It is in protecting those who do not yield." With that, the Rawl dropped his weapon and fled. Silence filled the tunnel once more. Cordell turned quickly to Amelia, kneeling beside her. "Are you hurt?" She coughed, shaking her head. "Just a little dizzy, You got here fast." "I followed your signal," he said. "It stopped transmitting. I knew something was wrong." She smiled weakly. "Guess it's good to have a Predator on my side." Looked at her carefully. "You are more than that now. You are part of this pack." After that attack, Cordell called an emergency meeting with the station command. His voice thundered through the command hall. "There are spies among us. The Rawl Collective wants this station. They will strike again." Some officers doubted him, but Amelia backed him up with the data she'd found from the relay, proof of sabotage codes and fake reports. Together, they uncovered hidden transmitters planted all over the station. It became clear that the RAL Collective was preparing for a full assault. The station had only days before the attack. Amelia refused to hide. She worked beside Cortel to build new defense protocols, mixing human logic with alien strategy. "You humans think differently," he said one night as they worked. "You see weakness as a chance to learn. My people see it as a flaw." "Maybe that's why we survive," she replied. "We don't have claws or armor. We just keep trying until something works." He looked at her, silent for a long moment. Then he said, "That is what makes you dangerous." The night before the attack, they stood together at the observation window. The red star burned weakly in the distance, casting shadows across the metal walls. Cortel spoke first. "When this is over, you will return to human space." Amelia turned to him. "And you, I will remain. This is my duty." She shook her head. "You've done more than duty, Commander. You've protected me, taught me, believed in me. If you think I'm leaving you behind, you don't understand humans very well." His deep voice rumbled softly, something close to a laugh. "You are stubborn. Comes with the species," she said with a grin. Cortel looked at her for a long moment. "Then we fight together." She nodded firmly. Together. That night, for the first time in his long and violent life, Cordell felt something unfamiliar. Peace. Not the peace of silence or victory, but the peace of knowing he was no longer alone. A small human, fragile in body, but unbreakable in spirit, had stood beside him without fear, and he silently swore, as the stars shimmered beyond the station's hull, that no force in the galaxy would touch her again, because in the dark, where predators ruled and mercy was rare, a new bond had formed, one that neither war nor death could easily break. The morning began quietly, almost deceptively so. The crew of Station Varel went about their work, checking systems, repairing minor malfunctions, and preparing for the next rotation. But somewhere in the shadows, the Rawl Collective waited. Every infiltrated sensor, every hidden camera, Every corrupted maintenance report had been part of a carefully orchestrated plan. Today, the station would face its first true test. Amelia was in the central command deck, reviewing power output reports and cross-checking maintenance logs. Her fingers moved quickly over the control panel, highlighting irregularities and potential threats. "Commander," she said, "the data shows something is off. The outer hull shields have slight fluctuations, irregular patterns. Could be a minor error, but it could also be intentional." Cordell's massive shadow fell across the room. "You are correct. It is intentional. The collective is preparing to strike." Her heart skipped a beat. "Strike? How soon?" "Within hours," he said. His deep voice held no fear, only focus. "We must prepare for a full assault." The station erupted into controlled chaos. Cortel moved like a force of nature, issuing orders and coordinating defensive teams. He assigned Amelia to oversee system integrity, ensuring that no sabotaged conduit or hidden trap would compromise their efforts. Amelia worked tirelessly, flipping switches, sealing off compromised sectors, and rerouting power. Her small hands moved quickly, guided by intellect and instinct. Even the veteran engineers stood in awe. She had become indispensable. Through it all, Cordell stayed close, patrolling the corridors, checking each security post, and watching Amelia. He wasn't just guarding the station, he was guarding her. Hours passed. Then the attack came. The Rahl collective struck from the docking bays, boarding the station in small, coordinated squads. Their weapons flashed red in the dim light, lasers cutting across corridors. Explosions shook the walls, sending sparks and debris into the air. Amelia stayed at the control panel, her eyes darting across the monitors. "Commander, they're breaching the supply tunnels. Multiple squads." Cordell roared, the sound echoing down every corridor. He moved faster than any human eye could follow, intercepting attackers with claws and strength that could bend steel. Each strike was precise, calculated, deadly, without cruelty. Amelia activated the automated defense turrets, rerouted power to barricades, and coordinated the crew's evacuation routes. Human ingenuity and alien power worked side by side, each reinforcing the other in the chaos. A squad of Rahl mercenaries cornered Amelia in the storage bay. She turned, heart racing, only to find herself trapped, their weapons raised. Their faces cold and merciless. "Human," one hissed. "You cannot hide behind your monster forever." She backed toward the crates, thinking fast. The turrets were offline in this section. Her communicator was fried. Her tools were scattered, and then the air shifted. A massive shadow blocked the entrance. Cordell stepped forward, scales gleaming in the flickering light. His eyes blazed like molten steel. "Step away," he said. The Rahl hesitated, sensing the fury radiating from the predator of Nith. We will not be stopped by a human." "You will not touch her," Cordell replied. His roar shook the metal walls, and the ground trembled under his feet. In one swift motion, he lunged, his massive claws sweeping through the attackers with devastating precision. The mercenaries scrambled to avoid his strike, but few succeeded. One crashed into a support beam. Another was thrown against the wall with a heavy clang. Amelia watched, heart pounding, as the creature she had once feared became her shield. "Commander." She shouted, "The door. Seal the bay." He obeyed immediately, smashing the control panel with one claw and activating the emergency lockdown. Heavy metal doors slid down with a metallic groan, trapping the remaining attackers inside. Amelia exhaled, shaking. "Thank you." Cordell's eyes softened, just slightly. "Do not thank me. You fought this battle as well. Your mind, your speed, your courage, they all saved lives." She nodded, feeling a strange warmth. For the first time, she realized the truth. Strength wasn't only in claws or weapons. It was in determination, courage, and quick thinking. The battle continued for hours. Cordell patrolled every corridor, moving like a predator, hunting in familiar territory. Wherever a Rahl tried to sneak past, he intercepted them. Every crew member was protected, every hatch monitored. Amelia coordinated from the central deck, rerouting power to blocked corridors, activating emergency turrets, and tracking the enemy's movement. She moved quickly, making decisions with calm logic that even the most seasoned commanders admired at one point. A squad of Rawl snuck into the reactor chamber. Amelia noticed the power fluctuation immediately and shouted over the Coom's commander. "They're in the reactor." Cordell didn't hesitate. He charged through the chamber doors, claws blazing. The Rawl tried to shoot, but he moved faster than their eyes could follow. In moments, they were subdued, tied, and waiting for the station security team to take them into custody. Amelia watched, stunned. How can someone be so fast? So precise? Cortell simply said, "Experience," and the need to survive. Hours later, the station was secure. The Rawl collective attack had failed. Their forces were defeated, captured, or driven away. The crew slowly emerged from hiding, exhausted but alive. Amelia wiped the sweat from her brow and looked at Cortell. The giant predator was standing tall, breathing heavily, but his eyes scanned the room, always alert, always protective. "You saved them all," she said quietly. "You helped save them as well," he replied. "You did not hide. You acted. That is what makes humans remarkable." Her heart swelled. For the first time, she felt truly respected, not just as a rookie engineer, but as a human capable of standing among monsters, literally and figuratively. That night, the station held a quiet ceremony in the central deck. The surviving crew came together to honor those who had defended it. Amelia received a commendation for bravery and quick thinking. Cordell, though unaccustomed to praise, stood beside her, silent but proud. After the ceremony, Amelia approached him. "Commander, thank you for everything. For protecting me, for believing in me." He looked down, his eyes glowing softly in the dim light. "You did not need protecting. You were strong enough to face them. I only ensured they could not stop you." She smiled faintly. "Then maybe we make a good team," he regarded her thoughtfully. "Yes. You and I, we work well together." From that day forward, the bond between human and predator became legend aboard Station Varel. Cortell was no longer just the feared commander. He was a guardian, a protector. Amelia was no longer just a rookie. She was the human who faced the impossible and survived, and together, they sent a message to the galaxy. Strength is not only measured in size or teeth. Courage is not only measured in firepower. True power comes when wisdom, courage, and loyalty stand together, human and predator alike. As the red star dimmed outside the observation window, Amelia and Cortell stood side by side, watching the stars. "You'll leave soon," he said. "Yes," she replied softly, "but not before we make sure the station is truly safe." Cordell tilted his head. "Then we fight together. Until it is," she nodded. "Together." And in the quiet hum of Station Varel, among the scars of battle, a new truth was born. The deadliest predator could become a protector, and the smallest human could inspire courage that echoes across the galaxy. The dust had settled. Station Varel's corridors, once echoing with alarms and explosions, were now quiet. Engineers and maintenance crews moved through the halls, repairing damage from the Rawl Collective's failed attack. Sparks flew from severed circuits, and scorch marks on the walls were reminders of the day's chaos. Amelia moved through the corridors, carrying a new batch of tools and equipment. Her uniform was clean again, though traces of soot and dirt clung to her sleeves, badges of her courage. Even after weeks on the station, she still felt the echoes of the battle. Her hands itched to work, her mind raced to find ways to improve defenses, and her heart remained vigilant. Cortell stood near the observation deck, tall and imposing as ever. But now his posture was different. His presence was no longer only a warning to enemies, it was a promise of protection. Amelia approached him quietly. "Commander," she said softly. He turned, his sharp eyes meeting hers. "Cadet Cross, you are working late. Want to make sure the repairs are complete." "We can't afford any mistakes," she replied. He nodded slowly. "Good. Attention to detail. That is what separates survival from failure." Amelia smiled faintly. I've learned from the best. Cordell's gaze softened, though his expression remained fierce. Perhaps. You have exceeded expectations. The following day, a formal inspection took place. The station's senior officers, representatives from allied sectors, and even some neutral observers were present. Amelia had been nominated to present a report on the defense system's resilience, a responsibility almost unheard of for someone so young as she stepped to the podium. She glanced at Cortell, who stood silently at the back. His presence gave her strength, the same way she had once inspired him with her courage. "Ladies and gentlemen," she began. Her voice steady and clear, Station Varel faced a full-scale attack from the Rawl Collective. Thanks to a combination of human ingenuity and expert defense coordination, we have secured the station. No civilian or crew member was lost. All attackers were neutralized. The room went silent for a moment. Then the officers began to applaud. Some even stood, nodding in respect. Amelia glanced at Cortell. His massive form remained still, but his eyes glimmered faintly. "You have done well, cadet," he said quietly after the ceremony. "You have proven that humans are capable of more than the galaxy ever expected." She blushed, unaccustomed to praise of that magnitude. "I couldn't have done it without you, Commander," perhaps he said, voice calm. "But courage cannot be taught. You have it naturally. That is why I defended you and why I will continue to protect you, if needed." The station slowly returned to normal. Crew members resumed their routines, and life aboard the outpost returned to a measured rhythm. Yet Amelia and Cortell's bond had shifted into something unspoken, a powerful and mutual respect that transcended species, size, or strength. They trained together now, not as commander and rookie, but as partners. Cortell taught her alien combat techniques, showing her how to anticipate moves, read opponents, and react with precision. Amelia taught him human problem-solving and mechanical improvisation, often turning impossible repair jobs to simple solutions using spare parts and quick thinking. The synergy between them became legendary among the station's crew. One quiet evening, Amelia and Cordell stood on the observation deck, watching the dying red star beyond the station's hull. "You'll leave soon," Cortell said. His voice was quieter than usual. "Yes," Amelia replied, "but not before ensuring the station is fully secure." He tilted his head, studying her. "Humans are curious creatures. You do not fear the unknown, even when it threatens your life." "That's how we survive," she said softly. "We adapt. We face danger because running doesn't always work." Cordell's massive form loomed beside her. "You have taught me something valuable," he said. "That strength is not only in claws, fangs, or weapons. True strength can also be in determination, courage, and loyalty." Amelia smiled. "And I learned from you that protection and power can be different. You don't need to strike to show strength. Sometimes you just need to stand." He regarded her thoughtfully. "Perhaps that is why humans and predators can work together." Their partnership became a model for the station. Other species began to respect humans more, seeing them as capable allies rather than fragile outsiders. Young cadets looked up to Amelia, inspired by her bravery and calmness under pressure. Cortell became not only a protector of the station, but also a symbol of cross-species trust and cooperation. Even the Rawl Collective, far away, had begun to whisper warnings among their members: "Do not underestimate the human, and do not provoke the predator of Nith." Station Varel thrived. Thanks to the human ingenuity of Amelia and the guardian strength of Cortell, they trained together daily, monitored new recruits, and prepared for any potential threats. Yet amidst all the work, they found small moments of quiet companionship. They would sit in the observation deck, sharing stories of their homeworlds. Cortell spoke of the rocky deserts of Nith, the early hunts, and the wars he had fought. Amelia told him about Earth, of oceans, forests, and cities where humans lived in crowded harmony. In these moments, they found a rare kind of peace, the peace that comes from knowing someone will always have your back. One day, a message arrived from Earth, requesting Amelia's return. She was to complete further training to continue serving humanity in interstellar operations. The news was bittersweet. She was excited to return home, yet leaving Cortel, the predator who had saved her life and become her protector, weighed heavily on her. When she told him, he remained silent for a long time. Then he said quietly, "The galaxy is vast. You will return to your kind. My duty will remain here. But know this, you have earned more than survival. You have earned respect, trust, and loyalty. And that bond will not break with distance." Amelia nodded, holding back tears. "I won't forget." Not for a moment. Cordell inclined his massive head, a gesture rare for his kind. "Then go with strength. Go with courage." The day of her departure arrived. Amelia walked through the docking bay toward her shuttle, carrying only a small pack of essentials. Crew members lined the walls, silently acknowledging the human rookie who had faced death and inspired trust across species. Cortel waited near the shuttle, his immense form silent and still. Amelia stopped beside him. "Commander," she said softly. He looked down at her. "You have done more than any human has ever done here. You have proven that bravery is not measured by size or strength, but by the will to act when others hesitate." She smiled faintly, placing her small hand on his scaled arm. "And you have shown me that courage can come in many forms, even from the deadliest predator." For a moment, they simply stood there, watching the stars beyond the station. Then Amelia stepped onto the shuttle. Before it lifted off, she turned and saluted. Cortel responded in his own way, placing a claw over his heart, a gesture of respect and loyalty, as the shuttle departed. Amelia watched the station fade into the distance. She carried with her the memory of the predator of Nith, the lessons he had taught, and the courage they had shared far across the galaxy. Whispers began to spread. The deadliest predator in the galaxy bows to a human rookie. She walked into danger and survived. She inspired courage where even monsters feared to tread. And somewhere on Station VRL, Cordell watched the stars fade behind the shuttle's trail, silent and steadfast. Knowing one truth above all, human courage could shine even among predators. And the bond between a determined human and a loyal guardian would echo across the stars forever. Because in the end, the greatest weapon in the galaxy wasn't claws, teeth, or firepower. It was courage, loyalty, and the will to protect others. The Galactic Defense Alliance had existed for thousands of years. It was formed after centuries of war between alien races who finally realized that peace could only be kept through unity. Dozens of powerful species joined hands, building fleets, colonies, and stations across the stars. But for all its vastness, there was one young species that had only recently entered the scene. Humans. Earth had joined the Alliance barely a decade ago. Compared to the ancient civilizations of the galaxy, humanity was still considered primitive. They had small ships, limited technology, and a short history of space travel. To most aliens, humans were fragile, emotional, and reckless. Some even saw them as a burden rather than an ally. And yet there was one human who didn't care about what others thought. His name was Ethan Cole. Ethan stood on the deck of the GDS Vorn, a large starship that belonged to the Alliance's elite combat unit squad. Vorne, his heart beat fast as he looked through the glass panels at the deep black sea of space. He had dreamed of this moment for years. Ever since Earth joined the Alliance, he had trained harder than anyone to prove that humans could stand shoulder to shoulder with the galaxy's best. Today was his first day as part of the team, but things didn't start well when he entered the training hall. Every alien in the room turned to stare. The air grew silent. There were 8 members of the squad, tall, strong, and from species far older and tougher than humans. Their armor gleamed with battle scars. Their weapons looked heavy enough to crush a man, and their eyes measured him with quiet doubt. And then came their leader. General Kurt H.A.K. Arthok was a legend among the Alliance. Standing nearly 3 meters tall, covered in dark scales, with eyes that glowed like molten metal, he was a member of the Draven species creatures known as the apex predators of the galaxy. The Dravens were unmatched in strength and combat instincts. Even among warriors, Krathak was feared. He had led countless victories and survived battles that destroyed whole fleets. When Quietak looked at Ethan, his expression showed no warmth, only disbelief. "This is the human?" he asked, his deep voice echoing across the hall. "Yes, sir," replied the officer who escorted Ethan. "Recruit Ethan Cole, pilot and technician. Earth sector." Quietak snorted. "He looks fragile." Ethan straightened his back. "Sir, I may not be as strong as a Draven, but I promise I'll pull my weight." The Draven narrowed his glowing eyes. "Promises are cheap, human. Results are what matter." Then he turned away. "Stay out of my squad's way. If you slow us down, I'll have you reassigned before the next sunrise." Ethan didn't argue. He simply nodded and said, "Understood, sir." The rest of the squad chuckled quietly. To them, the human seemed naive, another rookie who wouldn't last a week. But Ethan didn't give up. The first week of training was brutal. The gravity settings in the training chambers were twice as strong as Earth's. The drills were designed for alien physiology, not human muscles. Ethan fell, slipped, and gasped for air more times than he could count. His hands blistered, his body ached, and his lungs burned. Yet every time he hit the ground, he forced himself to get up again. Some of the aliens began to notice his persistence. The squad's medic, a soft-spoken insectoid named Kyratan, buzzed in surprise when Ethan refused medical rest after collapsing on the third day. "You need to recover. Human," she said, her voice clicking softly. "Your body is too weak for this routine. To recover while moving," Ethan replied with a tired smile. "If I stop now, I'll fall behind." Karthok, who was silently observing from the upper platform, grunted. He didn't admit it, but a small part of him respected that answer. During shooting practice, Ethan's aim was shaky at first, but he quickly adjusted to the alien weapon systems. He studied their recoil, trigger delay, and energy output with sharp focus. Within 2 days, he was hitting moving targets with surprising accuracy. During flight simulation, he outperformed 2 veteran pilots by using unpredictable maneuvers, tricks he learned from old human aircraft training. The others relied on autopilot patterns. But Ethan relied on instinct and creativity. By the end of the week, the laughter had stopped. The squad still doubted him, but no one called him fragile anymore. One evening, after a long day of drills, Ethan sat alone in the observation deck watching a nearby nebula glow with light. It reminded him of the sunsets on Earth, calm, beautiful, and full of unknowns. He missed home, but he also knew he couldn't turn back. Humanity needed someone to show that they belonged here. Footsteps echoed behind him. It was Kind. The Draven leader stood beside him, arms crossed. "You work hard," he said in a low tone. "But hard work doesn't always mean survival." Ethan smiled faintly. "Maybe not. But if I keep standing up, maybe that's enough." Krythak turned his head, his eyes narrowing. "You humans? Always talking about hope and stubbornness. In my world, weakness gets you killed." "And in mine," Ethan replied quietly, "weakness is what makes us learn faster." For a long moment, Krythak said nothing. Then he gave a short growl and walked away. But that night, he couldn't stop thinking about the human's words. The next day, Squad Vorn received a sudden alert. A nearby mining station had gone silent. It was a small colony, located on the edge of uncharted space. No communication, no signals, just static. The Alliance Command ordered Squad Vorn to investigate. It would be Ethan's first real mission. The squad geared up quickly. Weapons charged, armor sealed, and shuttles prepared. Ethan checked his helmet and double-checked his sidearm. His hands trembled slightly, but he hit it well. K. Herthok noticed. "Fear, human?" he asked. Ethan nodded. "A bit, yes." The Draven grunted. "Good. Fear keeps you alive. Overconfidence gets you dead." The shuttle launched into the void, its engines humming softly as they approached the dark, silent station. The colony lights were dead. No beacons, no signals. Just a lonely structure floating in the cold darkness. As they landed, the squad moved cautiously through the halls. The walls were scorched, and the floors were scattered with broken tools. Signs of struggle were everywhere. But there were no bodies. Ethan's voice came through the comms. I'm picking up faint power signatures below deck. Maybe the emergency core is still active. Take Kyraton and check it out, K. Arthak ordered. The rest with me. Ethan and Kyraton moved through the narrow corridors, their flashlights cutting through the dark. They reached the reactor room, where dim lights flickered. Suddenly, movement. A small metal object darted across the floor. Drone. Ethan shouted. The mechanical drone unfolded, its weapons glowing red. 2 more appeared behind it. Ethan reacted instantly, diving behind cover and returning fire. The blasts echoed through the chamber. Kyraton tried to call for help, but static blocked the signal. One of the drones fired a plasma bolt that hit a control panel, causing sparks to rain down. Ethan grabbed a piece of broken metal and threw it like a spear, knocking a drone off balance. Then he rushed forward, kicked it aside, and used its own weapon against the others. The fight was messy, but quick. When the last drone fell, Ethan exhaled heavily. Armor scorched and shoulders trembling, K. Artak's voice came through the comm finally. Report. Ethan replied, reactor secured. Drones neutralized. A pause. Then Kratchik said, his tone lower than before, Well done, human. Ethan smiled slightly, wiping sweat from his brow. Just doing my part, sir. When they returned to the Vorn, the squad members were unusually quiet. Even the ones who had mocked him before looked at him with new respect. Kaerthok didn't say much. But when the report was filed, he added one line that surprised everyone. Human recruit Ethan Cole showed initiative and courage under fire. Recommend continued service under Squad Vorn. It wasn't praise, not in Draven language. But for Ethan, it meant everything. That night, as the ship drifted silently among the stars, Ethan stood by the observation window once again. He had survived his first mission. He had earned the smallest spark of respect from the fiercest warrior in the galaxy. He whispered softly to himself, One step at a time, Earth. One step at a time. And far across the deck, General Krathak watched him, and for the first time, the apex predator felt a strange thought stirring in his mind. Maybe the human wasn't weak after all? A few weeks had passed since Ethan Cole joined Squad Vorn. The human rookie had surprised everyone with his courage and persistence. He trained harder than anyone, learned faster than expected, and refused to quit no matter how tough the drills became. Even General Krathak, the towering Draven leader who once doubted him, had stopped calling him fragile. He didn't say much. But his silence meant respect, at least. That's what Ethan hoped. Still, he knew he had a long way to go before he could truly earn the trust of the entire squad. Then came the mission that would change everything. It started as a routine call from Alliance. Command, a mining colony on the planet Ravis 9 had gone silent. The last message received mentioned an unidentified raiding force attacking the facility. The colony produced rare minerals used in starship construction. Materials too valuable to lose. Squad Vorn was sent to investigate and, if possible, recover survivors. The moment they arrived in orbit, something felt wrong. The colony was dark, its defense grid offline. Not a single communication signal responded to their hails. Scanners detect multiple life signs, said Lieutenant Sarok, the squad's reptilian scout. But the readings are strange. Not all of them are biological. Karthok, a steep voice filled the bridge. Weapons ready. We go in, armed. The team suited up, helmets ceilinged with soft clicks. Their dropship descended through thick gray clouds toward the surface. Lightning flashed across the sky, reflecting on Krathak's dark armor. Ethan sat quietly in the back, checking his blaster and breathing slowly. His heart pounded fast, but his hands stayed steady. K. Urtok noticed him. Nervous? Human? Ethan gave a short smile. Just focused, sir. The Draven gave a low grunt. Good. Fear without focus gets soldiers killed. The dropship landed near the main refinery complex. Smoke rose from the structure, and the once bright lights of the colony were now replaced by flickering sparks and shadows. The air smelled like burned metal. As the squad stepped out, Their boots crunched over debris. The silence was heavy. "Form up," Krathic ordered. "Sarek, take point. Kyratan, check for survivors. Ethan, stay near me." Ethan nodded. "Yes, sir." They moved carefully through the ruined corridors. The walls were scorched, and strange claw marks ran along the metal. The signs of battle were everywhere: overturned crates, shattered drones, burned holes in the floor. Suddenly, a noise echoed down the hallway, a mechanical hum followed by movement. "Contact," Sarek hissed. Out of the darkness, a swarm of combat drones rolled forward, their eyes glowing red. These weren't normal mining drones. They had been reprogrammed for attack. Plasma fire erupted. The squad scattered, taking cover behind heavy machinery. Energy blasts streaked through the air, lighting up the gloom. Tact roared, firing his heavy plasma rifle. "Push forward. Don't let them surround us." Ethan ducked behind a steel crate, firing short bursts. His shots were accurate, but the drones kept advancing. Their armor was thick, and their numbers kept increasing. "Kyratan," he shouted. "EMP charge ready?" "Charging now," the insectoid medic replied, attaching a small device to her wrist panel. A drone suddenly flanked their position, aiming straight at her. Ethan didn't think. He dashed out of cover, tackled the machine, and jammed his blaster under its chassis. One pull of the trigger and the drone exploded. The shock wave threw him back. When the smoke cleared, the rest of the drones had been disabled by Kyratan-sent pulse. The squad regrouped. Krathic looked at the human, who was now covered in dust and small burns. "You ran into a drone bare-handed," he said in disbelief. Ethan shrugged weakly. "Didn't have time to think." Krathak's deep growl turned into something that almost sounded like a laugh. "You humans are insane, maybe," Ethan said, "but it worked." They continued deeper into the colony. The corridors grew darker, and faint metallic noises echoed from below. Eventually, they found the central control room half destroyed, but the main terminal still flickering with power. Ethan moved to the console. "I can try to restore basic systems. Maybe we'll see what happened here." Krathic gave a short nod. "Do it! We'll cover you." Ethan began working quickly, fingers flying over alien symbols. Human interfaces were simple compared to Alliance tech, but he had studied hard during training. The others watched as he bypassed multiple firewalls and reactivated the colony logs. The screen came to life, showing a recording. The miners were running, shouting, alarms blaring. Then mechanical figures burst through the walls, dragging people away. The recording cut off with static. Ethan frowned. Those weren't raiders, they were. Controlled machines. By who? Asked Kyratan. Before Ethan could answer, the lights flickered. The sound of heavy footsteps echoed through the hall. Kathok raised his weapon. Incoming. The wall exploded, and a massive drone unit stepped through the smoke, far larger than the others, heavily armored and glowing with red circuits. Its voice crackled through the speakers. "Unauthorized presence detected. Eliminate intruders." The squad opened fire, but the drone's shields absorbed most of the hits. It returned fire with explosive rounds shaking the floor. Ethan spotted a flickering energy conduit above them. Crap, that pipe. If we overload it, the Draven looked understood instantly and shouted, "Cover the human." Ethan sprinted toward a side panel while the rest of the squad unleashed suppressing fire. Plasma bolts whizzed around him, one grazing his shoulder. He gritted his teeth, but didn't stop. Reaching the panel, he began rerouting power manually, sparks flying as circuits overloaded. Now, he yelled, "K Earthhawk," fired one precise shot into the conduit. It exploded in a flash of blue energy, sending a surge of electricity through the massive drone. The machine convulsed and then collapsed. Systems fried. The room went silent except for the sound of cooling metal. Ethan exhaled, leaning against the wall. That was close. Krathic looked at him, the glow in his eyes steady. "You think like no one I've seen before," he said. No hesitation, no fear. Ethan gave a tired smile. "Plenty of fear, sir." just no time to show it. They spent hours clearing the remaining drones and securing the area. Unfortunately, no living colonists were found, only damaged equipment and signs of forced evacuation. Still, they managed to retrieve valuable data from the systems, including proof that a pirate AI faction had hijacked the mining network. As the dropship lifted off from the ruined colony, the squad sat in silence. The mission had been tough, but it had shown something unexpected. The human rookie had saved them. Thok broke the silence first. "You fought like a draven today, Ethan Cole." Ethan looked at him with a hint of surprise. "I'll take that as a compliment." "It is," Craddock replied firmly. "Your kind may not have claws or scales, but you have something else. Willpower." The other squad members nodded in agreement. Even Sarek, who had mocked him before, gave him a respectful look. Kyraton gently wrapped a healing patch on his arm, her insectoid eyes soft. "You are strange, human," she said, "but you make us stronger." Ethan chuckled. "That's all I wanted." Later, when the squad returned to the GDS Vorn, they filed their mission report. The official record stated, "Squad Vorn neutralized AI threat. Colony lost, but data recovered. Human recruit Ethan Cole demonstrated exceptional bravery and technical skill under fire." Craddock signed the report personally, adding a final note in his deep, clawed handwriting, "Recommend Ethan Cole for permanent assignment. His instinct in battle saved the squad." That single sentence spread quickly across the ship. Within a day, crew members from other units began whispering about the human rookie who fought beside a draven and lived. Ethan didn't seek the attention, he only wanted to prove himself. But he didn't realize that his actions had already changed something inside Krat. That night, Krat stood alone on the viewing deck, watching distant stars glimmer. His claws rested against the glass, his mind restless. For centuries, species had believed themselves to be unmatched born hunters, conquerors, the apex of evolution. Yet this small, soft-skinned human had risked his life not out of dominance, but out of loyalty. Out of heart, Thok thought about Ethan's words during their first talk. "Weakness is what makes us learn faster." The Draven leader finally understood what that meant. Perhaps strength wasn't only in power. Perhaps it was also in the courage to keep standing even when every instinct screamed to run. As the Vorn drifted through the stars, the human and the predator shared an unspoken bond, a bond forged in fire, built on respect, and destined to shape the future of the entire galaxy. Ethan had proven one thing beyond doubt. Humans might be new to the stars, but they were far from weak.